Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Irish Illustrated Insider. I'm Tim Priester from Irish Illustrated, joined by John Bryce of Football Scoop and Pete Sampson of The Athletic. Tim O'Malley will join us in segment two. It is week number 4. Notre Dame traveling to Fayetteville, Arkansas for the first time. The line opened at 6.5 this past week. It's down to 4. I think that's a good correction. I don't know that Notre Dame fans may panic a little bit seeing the line change like that, but I think that's just kind of a correction as to what's been happening with Notre Dame defensively, especially. But moderate temperatures expected in Fayetteville. 11 a.m. kickoff Central Time out there 12 Eastern Time. So, guys, what do you? What's on your mind here? Is this battle unfolds of a whole bunch of offense and very little defense, at least up to this point?
Well, I think real quickly for me, it's coming off our noon Zoom with Marcus Freeman. Of note, he sounded pretty encouraged about Noah Burnett and said as long as things go well the next couple of days, he would be expected to handle place kicking duties for the Irish at Arkansas, while he also divulged that rookie Eric Schmidt will continue to be the point man on kickoffs, at least for now, and that moving forward, Schmidt and Diomede would compete to be Burnett's backup as long as Burnett stays healthy. Devontae Smith upgraded to probable, and Leonard Moore remains questionable. So to me, the status of Leonard Moore is of utmost importance for the Irish this week, and I think Leonard Moore faces an extremely uphill battle to be able to play on Saturday.
I was interested about how they structured practice this week because when you have three major things, whether, technique and man coverage, sort of depth and feel and zone coverage, and then also, how do you get your defensive line to be better with pass rush? It's like, it's a lot to get corrected in a single week. And I'm not sure it's realistic to actually do that. So Marcus did talk about yeah, you sort of change maybe the structure here or there of your individual periods, but he did make the point you can't practice more. There's only so many hours in the day, and so I think that to expect a massive improvement in the defense or all better now, I don't think that's realistic. I don't think he thinks that's realistic.
Yeah, I agree with you, Pete. And wow, there's a lot of technique talk, multiple questions about technique. And look, you only, like you said, you only have so many hours out there. And look, you build upon what you've been doing. It's not like they haven't been working on technique. And maybe you tweak it a little bit based upon who you're facing. You're facing a pretty dynamic passing game that's going to push the football down the field. And as John mentioned, the situation with Leonard Moore is not it's not ideal. And I think, listed as questionable. He has practiced this week, but I think all of us have heard it hasn't been anything really substantial or productive. So I'm sure they'll say game time decision, but this is going to require all hands on deck. Carson Hobbs has to be an option too. He's kind of fluctuated now between nickel and in the cornerback position. It's promising to hear that Devontae Smith is probable, and also promising the way Dallas Golden played last week.
Yeah, it's on the depth chart, Devonta Smith is listed as the starter at nickel, which I wouldn't put a ton of weight on that one, but it's at least worth noting.
I think certainly both have to play against a dynamic passing game like this. I think Dallas Golden certainly showed enough to be encouraged about what he can do. He just started playing nickel, last Monday, and for him to play, his length and his athleticism and just his natural football instincts, I think, really showed themselves. You watch the interception that he had, and it's like, oh, okay, that's the guy that you saw in high school. You see the length, you see him spread out and make a play. And so that part's really encouraging, but you're looking at a group of receivers here. Omega Blake has 24 receptions after averaging 24 yards per catch last year at Charlotte. They have some other quick guys like Jalen Brown, averaging 14.2. CJ Brown averaging 12.9. Raylan Sharp. Most of the receivers are larger. Raylan Sharp is one of the smaller ones, and he's averaging 14.6. So they've got a bunch of offense they're going to throw at you. They got a decent running game with Mike Washington Jr. He, of course, is probably still beating himself up for what he did last Saturday with the game just about sealed with a chip shot field goal, which was never attempted because he fumbled inside the 10-yard line. So, yeah, all hands on deck with that secondary, and all hands on deck with that D-line, JB, that needs to be more productive against I would say a good to very good, not a great offensive line, but definitely a good offensive line. And Sam Pittman, the head coach, offensive line background, they're going to be formidable against a defensive line that's trying to get it together.
Yeah, and Pittman widely regarded as one of the best OL minds and teachers in the college football game. And then Bobby Petrino will be as good as any offensive coordinator that the Irish face all season. So certainly both those are factors. Found it interesting on the Zoom with Marcus. Pete and I we hadn't compared notes. We asked somewhat similar questions about implementing changes in practice, especially as Pete noted across all three levels. I was a little more specific in asking about the secondary, and I found it interesting for Marcus to say we can't be outcome driven in practice. Like sometimes, even if it means maybe not winning the rep in practice, you've got to practice the technique the proper way so that it's more instinctive for you to carry it over for game day. I just found that as a little bit enlightening from Marcus to say that, yeah, I guess sounds like there are some technique issues that are perhaps being masked in practice because your starting defense is good enough to win a rep against your scout team offense, and you're not realizing to the extent that your technique is breaking down.
Pete, I want to get back to the conversation about Burnett and Schmidt. Freeman talked about, Schmidt had some emotions last week being the starting kickoff man. He will remain as the kickoff man, which I think that's a smart thing to do. He's not, boy, when you watch film of him, I know we saw him live, but all of us a lot of times need to see film because we're so high in the sky watching the game. He's not a real, he's 6'1", 6'2", 210 pounds. He's not a real aesthetic kicker. He's gonna come at you with some power. He tested the width of those uprights in the Purdue game. He was from left to right all the way across. But I think it's smart they're going to keep him on kickoffs because I think he'll be good at that if he can keep it between the sidelines. I think he's got a chance to be pretty good. Pete, what else you want to address in segment one before we get to questions in segment two?
I mean, that was kind of it. I guess, Gerby Lambert came up again. I do think he's having a nice sophomore season now, or on track to have a nice sophomore season. And I do think, we talk about this every offseason, like the offensive line needs a couple games to get it together. Even great offensive lines need that. Well, they've had a couple games to get it together. And, I know Purdue is Purdue, but still, is there a great defensive line they're going to play the rest of the year? Is there a great front seven they're going to play the rest of the year? I don't think so. So maybe this is kind of a time for the offensive line to click into gear. And I think, Lambert, as Freeman pointed out today, like he's going to be part of that solution.
I brought up I brought up the size of the front seven for Arkansas, meaning I thought that Notre Dame could do something. I did a poor job asking a question, obviously, because Marcus Freeman thought it was a pretty silly question, I would think. But, the size of they got a 387-pound defensive tackle. I know we'll talk more about this in the second segment. But I just think when I watch them, I think, the speed of a Love and a Price and a Faison, and I'm really thinking more of their linebackers, which I think, especially their middle linebacker, who, he's not very active. I think, and I don't think he comes out for a nickel. I mean, he was their number 2 or number 3 tackler last year. He teams up with Xavier Sorey. I just think that Notre Dame can do some things. I think Mike Denbrock's looking at that front seven. I didn't mean that Jeremiah Love was going to take on their 387-pound defensive tackle, which I think Marcus Freeman was confused about. But I think that space at and beyond the line of scrimmage is something that Notre Dame's speed can exploit a little bit.
Yeah, I think and not only Notre Dame's speed, but that's a pretty poor tackling Arkansas defense. I mean, we've talked about Notre Dame's own issues, and primarily I think Notre Dame's poor tackling has been more so in the back end. But that's a poor tackling Arkansas team that I do think Notre Dame in space is a real problem for the Hogs defense.
Yeah, that's something that I saw in film. I'll talk more about that in segment two. And we will be going to segment two coming up right now, burning up the boards.
This segment of Irish Illustrated Insider is brought to you by Signature Pro Apparel, launching its debut Ragib Rocket Ismail collection, an officially licensed product of the University of Notre Dame. Founded by Notre Dame football and NFL alum Lance Legree, Signature Pro connects college sports legends to modern day with timeless polos, quarter zips, and rugby shirts. The debut collection honors Rocket Ismail, featuring the 1990 Heisman runner-up signature as the main logo, so you can wear your Irish pride, past and present. Pre-orders open next week at Signature Pro Apparel, alongside the premiere of a short feature film celebrating Rocket's legacy. Don't miss your chance to own a piece of Notre Dame history at signaturepro.com. We start with segment two, burning up the boards, and it's actually the last question received from guys. This person keeps getting on because he keeps asking impressive questions, actually, from Malloy on base. New, but now not new anymore, I guess. You guys find out last minute that Chris Ash has media availability this morning. What is one question you each are asking of him?
It's like shooting fish in a barrel. You guys go first.
That's why he didn't say 12 questions, probably.
How dare
ahead,
you?
That's a question.
Yeah. No, I think I would, if he's going to give me an honest answer, I would want to know, like, what the heck is so hard about marrying up fronts and coverages? Because, like, it's something that we've never heard before as like an issue, and suddenly this is the most important thing in the world. So, like, what's up with that? Like, why is that? Why is this the thing? That's what I really like to know.
I think for me, I'm sneaking in too for our viewers of this podcast on YouTube. My first question is going to be if your defense has another terrible day on Saturday, do you have to wear one of those scream masks that are hanging behind Tim Priester's head?
There you go.
My real question would be, we've heard Marcus Freeman talk more about technique and execution than probably ever before. Have you changed any techniques in the secondary?
I mean, I think, yeah, I think the glaring one is that you said you weren't going to change a whole lot, and why are they having such a difficult time adapting? But I really think, actually, I think my first question would be, and it's not like they didn't run zone with Al Golden, but obviously it wasn't emphasized to the extent that Ash is a zone coverage coach. So, is the player's lack of experience running zone one of the major issues that you're dealing with? That's I mean, you can't. I'm not sure you could limit it at one question. There'd be a bunch of guys standing around them that would be firing stuff at him, of course. But
Since we all
there's
have
a lot.
since we all have to get one in, we would hope we'd be joined by many people for this one. But I mean, I think at this point I've default. Bryce's was mine. I think at this point, though, I would have defaulted to as the fourth person in line. What's the disconnect between what you saw in camp and what has materialized on the field? And did anything happen late in camp in terms of tweaking things that has in any way contributed to the confusion we see on the field? And then you guys, we could use the laziest sports reporter non-question in the history of sports reporters. Talk about the defense. It would actually work.
Yeah.
We just said, talk about the defense. It'd have to say stuff.
I would, and if we're sort of in the truth serum mode here with Chris Ash, I would like to know, like, are these defensive tackles worse than you thought? Because he's not going to, like, rip the personnel, like, on the record.
Right. So
but I do think, like, what they're getting out of the DT position right now, he's probably like, what? Like, I was told this was better. Because that position, I think, is just not
Well,
not where it needs to be.
he thought it was better, right? In the
Yeah.
preseason. I mean,
Marcus Freeman said the defensive tackles were like what the
absolutely.
most improved
Most
position.
improved, yeah.
Jason Onye was as good or better as any D tackle that
Right.
he had here in 3.5 years.
So the
Yeah,
Onye
they
thing
went
is way
6 deep.
off to say. The improved thing, I immediately thought of Bob Diaco when he said once he stood up at a podium when they were 4-0, and he said Isla Hardy's the most improved player I've had here in 3 years, and everybody went nuts. And then 6 questions later, somebody asked him to elaborate on Hardy, which no one did with Freeman, and he said, "You have to understand the bar was exceptionally low."
Yeah.
It's just like, wow. So he went from unplayable to you can talk about him at a bye week.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah, and
so-
Pete, as it relates to the defensive tackles, I mean, Marcus Freeman isn't making that statement if Chris Ash doesn't coincide with that.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't get it. So maybe they were both off on it. With Al Washington, like I think Al Washington's feedback would be part of that.
Exactly.
I like
Also,
how we
like how was this defense ever ahead of this offense in camp? That would also be interesting to find
Pete,
out.
you weren't on our last podcast, Pete, but somebody wrote in. I read it online. It wasn't a question. He goes, "I'm trying to wrap my head around the defense being ahead of the offense. Was every single pass in August thrown to Leonard Moore?"
Well,
Yeah,
or horizontally.
yeah, horizontally thrown to Leonard Moore. He just jumped on
Yeah.
top of it. Switching gears for Dr. Parnell 42, friend of the show, and Tim Priester. Would you say that Jadarian Price's running style has become more patient this season compared to the past few seasons, whereas Love's running has become a little too impatient? He seems to be looking to try to turn a long run into a highlight reel every time.
I don't agree with that about Jay Love. I mean, I think Jay Love is maximizing. He has every move necessary to try to extricate himself from a tackle. I don't like.
I thought he was frustrated against Miami and trying to do because he didn't get the ball enough.
Well, okay, yeah. I guess I'm thinking more in recent weeks, but I mean, the 48-yard run up the sideline is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen because that should not go for a touchdown. He had 2 great blocks, there's no doubt. Faison just kind of happened to be where he needed to be and just kind of threw a shoulder into somebody and that sprung him. But do you think maybe I'm wrong here? I mean, you guys think that he's trying to hit too many home runs and therefore he's not being productive on those runs? I'm not seeing that.
I think he is trying to hit a lot of home runs. He's also hitting a lot of home runs. But
he's also getting tough yards too. I don't
think that. I mean, the one that stands out to me is the Wildcat that got stopped on 4th down against A&M.
That's a bad one.
Where he's just like, all right, I can beat everybody the outside here. It's like, no, actually, you just needed to like pound that up there. But I think he runs exceptionally hard and violent. Like hurdling, jumping, all that, like all it's very highlighty, but it's also pretty effective too. So, yeah, I just think like he's got an impatient running style to him, but I feel like he always has had that. So I don't know if that's really anything new. I do think Jadarian Price is much better. The first part of the question, I think, O'Malley and I do rush efficiency. I had him at 9 of 9 last weekend. That's the first time anybody's ever been 100% in rush efficiency, I think, ever.
Oh, he definitely was. Yeah.
So that's.
But his stuffs
off
through
the
the
charts.
first 2 games. What were his stuffs through the first 2 games?
Prices were not as bad as usual. I mean, Love's were terrible against Miami. He was all stuffs, but literally all but one run was stuffed for Jeremiah Love. But I mean, I don't think that was Jeremiah Love's running style. I think he just got beat.
That's kind of what.
Miami won. Yeah. I think Price has been much better. And here's the key. Sorry, JB, real fast. Game 7 last year is the first time Jadarian Price was handed the ball on 3rd down ever. It happened in game number 2 this year. There's a reason for that.
I was going to say I don't think Love is being particularly impatient or trying to hit too many home runs. I think at Miami, let's not forget, through seven possessions, he had 5 touches. So impatience was bred by the game plan, not by Jeremiah Love's running
Agreed.
style. As for Price, I completely agree. Not only has he become more patient and better at allowing his blocks to develop, but I think we're seeing an even greater burst of acceleration. Like when he plants and decides to burst, I think you're seeing a real impact from that. Is that Lauren Lando? I don't know. Maybe that's a question we ask of them the next time we visit with them, because as you all three know, multiple players have told us and touted that Lando does and his crew do position specific stuff. And so has Lando's position specific stuff for the running backs and specific to Jadarian Price made him that much more explosive when he does hit the accelerator.
Wait till you see Steven Dix try to tackle Notre Dame's 2 running backs this weekend. The 245-pound middle linebacker who had 0 tackles for loss last year. He is not going to keep pace with those 2 guys.
Priester, I like your Jardarian Price. What you've said it twice now, I think, is it doesn't seem like anyone realizes he's fast until they're running by him. He's like running by you.
They got a bad. Oh my God! I took a bad angle, and it's over.
It's just
and to your point on Love's 48-yard touchdown last week, they didn't necessarily take bad angles. He eliminated the angle.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that.
I believe we do have an update here, so I included it. TJ Brown Sia, I think. TJ Brown Skia. I apologize if there's a code here I don't know.
Or CIA.
Yeah,
CIA.
Brown.
Oh, TJ Brown CIA. There you go. Thanks, guys. Where will Charles Jagasa play when he returns from injury? Lambert has improved every game, and he looked great on Saturday. Knapp has improved also, but he seems to have at least one catastrophic lapse in pass protection per game.
We have an update.
I'll go here, and the others can chime in. I'm not so certain that there's any imminent return of Charles Jagasa. It's my understanding he's had a significant setback and has required additional medical attention and is now back in what I call the RoboCop brace, very similar to the one that Aeneas Williams is wearing, except I think this one is even far more cumbersome. So he had been completely brace free and cleared and was on a fast track. And we know he already had an earlier setback where they had to go in and clean up the surgical area before. But now I think this is a much more significant setback that has really drastically altered his timeline for the worse. Gentlemen.
He's going to be on the 2029 team.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be on the 2025 team.
Yeah. 20, I would say the thoughts of Charles Jagasa having to go pro early, of course, not there.
He'll get there. He'll get there. But
He may be playoffs or something. See how I work that in. The key is the line has to continue to coalesce because you're not getting a savior archangel coming to save the situation really until the hay is in the barn is the way I would look at it this time. But they have gotten better. I know, Tim, what it comes down to is we keep using this caveat. You've written it. I said it on a podcast yesterday. They've really improved, like so much better against Purdue.
Yeah.
Right.
But they look better.
Looking better against other teams.
But they look better against A&M, and I know A&M's not a great run defense either, but it's still A&M. So, look, all you can do is measure your progress by the team you play that week. And this week, Notre Dame's offensive line, but they could use Charles Jagasa, with some of those big bodies up front there. But this is a great opportunity for them to run the football again. This should be, I put in Thursday thoughts, what the over-under combined passing yards? 600? I'm being a little. I'm putting it way out there, but
Dave doesn't normally win those games. Is the only problem.
No, they don't. Yeah. But Arkansas is throwing for 300 yards a game consistently, and Notre Dame just. There's a lot. There's no
reason not to throw, Tim. You're right.
No, there's a lot to be had for both passing games this weekend. I was good to see. I sent you a text, Tim. I know you read it. That I was happy to see that your Arkansas expert. Because I start looking at that film on Sunday night, so I'm kind of flying by, just what I see and what I think, and I'm like, this is the worst tackling secondary I've ever seen, and it was good to see that the Arkansas expert that you quoted said something. He even elaborated upon that. It's maybe as bad or worse than the way I described it.
Well, if you're Arkansas, real quick, I'd just say if you're Arkansas, there's certainly been no reason not to throw it, especially as you study this Notre Dame secondary. If you're Notre Dame, there's every reason not to throw it because if you're running and controlling the clock in the line of scrimmage, you keep your own secondary off the field. So that's how I would balance that.
I think that's a great point, and that's going to be in my preview. That we don't talk about time of possession too often, but this might be a time where. Time of possession because Notre Dame's going to be able to run. They should be able to run the football. If you can move that, you don't really have to move that 387-pounder because the ball snapped and he stands up straight. So just go to his right or left. He's not going to make a play on you. But if you can move that line a little bit and control the clock, I think that could be. We don't talk to time of possession very often anymore, but this might be one time to do that.
Yeah. I was just going to say these are actual over-under passing yards, so you can tell me which way you want. Taylor Green, 268.5.
Ooh.
Over. Win or lose, over.
Yeah, I think so.
Lose, it'll
it's hard
go
to
over
say
by
with
100.
Carr because they're going to be able to run.
Yeah.
CJ Carr is 244.5.
I'd still take the over on that.
I don't know, but I'm surprised it's 24 different yards because Arkansas can lose by 25 and he'll go over that by 100
They
yards.
gave up. Where's it? They gave
I would
up
definitely take the over on Taylor Green.
Yeah.
against Memphis. They gave up. They didn't give up that much. Maybe it was Mississippi. They gave up a 65-yarder, a 64-yarder, a 35-yarder, a 29-yarder.
Yeah, that adds up.
I guess that. Yeah, Notre Dame hasn't given up quite those kind of explosives, but
84.
Yeah, I think that I want to say like in 3 games under Chris Ash, they've allowed 300 yards passing twice, and I think they allowed 300 yards passing once in 42 games under Al Golden.
whoa, jeez.
Might be mistaken on that, but not by much.
Coming out of a break, question from Denver Maximus. Everyone seems to be happy with the progress of the offense. What would you like to see this weekend from the offense that would show continued growth and optimism?
I can go quickly. I like what Mike Denbrock said when Pete asked him, is this the offense, you kind of envisioned the running game and then vertical stretch? Because Pete and I talk about that all the time for the perfect Notre Dame offense. Denbrock added, I think we can be a very efficient mid-range passing game too. And if they're efficient mid-range passing game, they're scoring over 40 against Arkansas because they down the field one-on-one, they're going to be great. They're going to run the ball well. If CJ Carr's hitting mid-range, it's a wrap. I mean, that offense is going to be be outscoring everybody until USC and Notre Dame just decide who gets the ball last.
Just 6 touchdowns. That's what I like to see this weekend. I don't even care how you score them.
All from Price, right? Just get them on
Sure.
Price. Yeah.
For me, it's the offensive line. Like they were so much better last week, but as you noted, O'Malley against Purdue, show me an offensive line. Not that Arkansas is great, mind you, but this is a road game also. Show me an offensive line that helps Notre Dame possess the ball 35 minutes. I think that's kind of the number I keep coming to when I get ready to do my prediction is I want to see Notre Dame in that 33 to 35 minute range of possession. I think that's a recipe for a win.
Yeah, 294 yards rushing by Memphis. Now, prior to that, and again, you have to throw out Alabama A&M and JBU, and I thought Arkansas State would be more competitive, and they weren't. But Arkansas didn't really. Well, they could throw it. Mississippi, excuse me, only ran for 3 yards per carry. I'm not sure how good Mississippi's run game is this year, but then Memphis tore them up. For me, it's moving those big bodies, and I think first and foremost, this is contain Quincy Rhodes because I don't think they have another They don't have another playmaker up front. Quincy Rhodes is the guy number 97 that Marcus Freeman referred to the other day. He was a nondescript player for them last year. He's got 5 sacks in 4 games. I mean, he is really, really active. So I think first and foremost with that offensive line, come up with a plan, some pretty steady flow of some double teams for him. And if you negate him, I don't see a whole lot of playmakers up front.
Next question is a double, and they do very much relate, I think, for this weekend at least. JF546867 says, comparing Ashton Golden's first couple games as DC, the numbers seem to be similar as far as percentage of zone and man. The difference was blitz rate, where Golden relied on bringing pressure. With issues in the secondary and lack of pressure up front, do you expect to see a higher blitz rate versus Arkansas? And that relates to Michael Kolitz making a good point. What is your impression of Dallas Golden and Mark Zachary? Did they do well enough to earn additional time, even if others are healthy?
Go ahead, guys.
I don't think Ash is like aggressive by nature. Like I think that they're kind of spooked on defense right now. So the idea of like we're gonna go full Tenuta here, I think it's pretty unrealistic. So yeah, I don't think there's gonna be a higher blitz rate, especially with Taylor Green being the quarterback. Because then it's like you can talk about removing a guy from coverage. I think you're also removing a guy from quarterback scramble, take off for 22 yards when you blitz. So I wouldn't say that. As far as the Zachary Golden stuff, thought Golden has had a better run of it through one game than Zachary has. And if Leonard Moore is healthy, then I would think Mark Zachary would go back to the bench.
Yeah, well,
Well,
yeah.
that part is definitely true, Pete.
Yeah.
Leonard Moore is out.
I'm throwing this out there. It's a possibility.
Yeah. I think Golden has certainly earned that opportunity. And also, even if you can just spell them here and there, and it's not going to be as hot as it could have been certainly this weekend in Fayetteville, but it is going to be lower 80s. So that's of note. But I think you play those guys as much as you can moving forward when it makes sense because you're going to need them. And you've already needed them last week due to injury, but you're still going to need them over the balance of this season. And we heard Marcus Freeman the other day say, guys, I know the definition of insanity, and we all know that's doing the same thing over and over again and somehow expecting different results. So I do think, based on Marcus saying that, are they going to suddenly turn into the old NFL Blitz video game? No, but I think they have to do some different things and find some creative ways to get some more pressure on the quarterback, and that has to mean some occasional more blitzes because Pete, to your point, you're right. Taylor Green can tuck it and run, and he's a big dude to try to get down. The flip side of that is 22 yards is still about a quarter of 86 yards, and so we've seen them on their home field give up an 86 yarder the other day. So 22 yards is a modest victory right now.
I like that. I mean, if Leonard Moore can play, and that's going to come down to the game time situation. If Leonard Moore can play, you can blitz a little more.
Yeah, but this isn't, remember the Titans with actor Will Patton playing Coach Bill Yost saying we're gonna blitz all night because you're just going to get killed by the quarterback running the football.
Yes.
So you have to. And I've said he's not a B gap runner. He wants to go around the edge, and so he's galloping down the sideline. It's a beautiful thing to see when you're an Arkansas fan. But you've got to pick your spots. You've got to get every coach says we got to get a better 4-man rush. You do. I mean, you just do. You can't rely on 5 and 6.
In case everybody else is feeling it, Priester froze a little bit there. So if he comes back talking, we'll pick up with him. Guys, want to go to the next question for now? Maltese Irish, including Arkansas, rank the remaining opponents in terms of difficulty.
So,
Hey, Tim, you froze there for about a solid minute.
Yeah, I said Bobby Petrino's interviewing to be the interim head coach here, so I think that's for sure. He's gonna be as wide open and as aggressive as he wants to be. So I don't know. Look, it's just if there was one button to press, they would do it. But blitzing isn't the button to always press if you're not sure whether you're going to get home with 5 or 6 guys rushing the quarterback.
I would agree with that, TP, that there's a real life Julius Caesar Brutus situation brewing out in Arkansas. Okay, ranking while you froze, TP, TO asked the next question for us to rank the remaining opponents. So I'll go with USC as my number 1 remaining opponent, followed probably pretty closely by the overall ability of Arkansas. And then I would personally probably have Boise and then NC State and then I guess Pitt by default, Pitt or Navy. And then Syracuse. Syracuse is probably ahead of Pitt and Navy. I'm wrong there. So I put Syracuse ahead of Pitt and Navy and then Stanford is pretty overwhelmingly dead last.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Boston College next to last, even though Boston College somehow lost to Stanford. But yeah, I would say it is weird to look at, like, USC is way out in front as number 1. But then we are sitting here thinking, like, all right, if Arkansas is number 2 and you're favored, like, that's not that hard of a schedule the rest of the way.
No, it's just that the defense.
Man, if you can get this one,
my thing is that the defense gets better. and they beat Arkansas. At some point, the defense is going to also lapse a little. It can't be the same day CJ Carr has his first off day. If the defense lapses and CJ Carr throws 2 picks, then it's Boise State or NC State, obviously USC, then it's at Pitt. I mean, it's probably not Navy, but do you want to not have the ball ever? How do you guys think the Chris Ash first time run through with Navy is going to be?
Oh God.
What do you think that D is going to look like? Al Golden's team gave up 34 the first time through with Navy, and they had to stop them on the last series.
I think Alexander Teach is walking through that door.
And Drew Cronick, speaking of people auditioning for jobs, Drew Cronick, the Navy offensive coordinator, is already in our Intel series on Football Scoop. He's already getting a lot of mention as a potential head coaching candidate at the FBS level in this cycle. So there's another guy who's made Navy more dangerous than ever before, and they're doing some more impressive things than ever before on offense.
I think they have 7 hard games. Very well. They have USC as a very hard game to win. They have 6 more that I don't think are that easy, including Navy. As the defense is now, I don't know why you think they're going to easily beat people. I don't know how does that make any sense. But then I think Stanford and Boston College, you could probably go out there and just beat them 48-34.
I would definitely put Boston College and Stanford last.
Yeah.
That's second to last and last. I would definitely put USC and Arkansas 1, 2. I think the order of the next 5 is a little tricky for me. Syracuse, Fran Brown's doing a heck of a job. Now, I realize that Angeli was at the controls for most of that, but
yeah, I'm including Angeli not being there right now, though.
I know, but I mean, if Ricky Collins can just kind of pick, which I don't expect him to, but I mean, if he can kind of pick up where Angeli left off, Fran Brown's done a good job of making them competitive just about whoever they're going against. And then Navy, Boise State, NC State, I can't really, as you said, JB, NC State will not be undefeated when they come to Notre Dame, as we were talking about the possibility of that. But to me, those guys are all kind of bunched together. But Tim, you make a good point that with the Navy matchup against Ash, that's good Lord. Certainly you can count on your head coach and 2 or 3 other assistant coaches on defense to have some working knowledge of it and how to slow it down. But again, the Drew Cronick factor with the throwing inserted into that makes it really, really tricky. But fortunately, that's a headache for down the road. We have a question from Siggy12. The defensive line needs to do their job so that the secondary can have a chance to do theirs. After reviewing film on the first 3 games, can you identify any key reasons why rushers are not winning their one-on-one battles? These same guys had success last year in the ability to win one-on-one matchups on the edge. That should not have changed much.
Mills and Cross.
Yep.
That's who I wrote down.
I was going to say, just going to wait and someone didn't say it. I was going to say Mills and Cross. We can move on. I agree. Pete, why don't you, because you have a coach telling you about this with Miami of Ohio.
Oh yeah.
Explain the Mills and Cross phenomenon for people that don't listen.
Yeah. When I was at Miami, and did the embed with them, not Miami, Florida, Miami, Ohio. Chuck Martin was just like, he was like, Mills and Cross are the most disruptive defensive tackles I've ever seen. Like, you can't, as a pairing, like, you can't do anything with them. And I think maybe that was much more of a fulcrum for the defense than we realized. Cause like, I think we looked at Mills and Cross and we're like, were they really that good last year? Like, for an opposing offensive coach, yeah, they really were that good last year. But it was, we're going to neutralize them and then get destroyed by everybody else. I think to pull that foundational piece out of the defense, they just haven't done a good enough job replacing that in recruiting. They haven't done a good enough job replacing that in player development either.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly add anything to that. Really.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. I think that's what it is too. I'm glad we were all better on that one.
What I want to add is just think in your mind, like we all watch this and fans watch the game over and over again. Just the image of Cross and Mills, what it looked like when the ball was snapped, and now
when they were healthy too.
When they were healthy. Yeah. But even to a large extent when Cross wasn't, when he was still on the field. But now picture in your mind what Jason Onye looks like when the ball is snapped. He is sealed off. He's not in the play. He can't reach the runner. These guys at least held the point of attack and made themselves accountable, made offensive linemen really put a body on them to quote neutralize them. Neutralize meaning that preventing them from making a tackle. But when you, in my mind, when I think of Mills and Cross, they always kept themselves available to make the stop. And you picture the guys up front now, and that's, Onye in particular is the one for me that gets sealed off so easily. It's just not a factor in the play. So, I mean, I understand where the question's coming from, but it's not the same guys. It's because it's all collectively and without Cross and Mills, especially Mills second half of the season, especially Cross when he was healthy.
They let you play 9-on-8. Essentially, you had to devote.
I think that's a good way of putting it.
You had to devote 3 offensive linemen to those 2 guys, and you could pick how you did that, but you were at a numerical disadvantage with those guys on the field at all times.
Excellent point.
On topic from Mac 341, what does a successful day look like for Ash and the defense?
Under 400 yards or around 400 yards. That would be great. And then, I mean, mid 30s. Like being realistic about what
I know.
They're capable of doing right now.
Mine is because I think it's important. After Tim Priester sent me a stat last night, there's 17 of 18 touchdowns in the red zone.
Oh, God, I couldn't believe it. When
how about a successful day is they are 2 of 4 in the red zone touchdowns, and one time they don't score at all.
I pop to those stats, and you don't know where to start to find the opponent that you're looking for.
It's stopped at that stat.
It's so. But when you open it, it's always right at the top. And damn, there's Arkansas, 17 of 18. I can't even remember who number 1 was. They were perfect, but it wasn't 18. It was fewer attempts inside the red zone. 17 of 18 touchdowns.
Red zone stops for me are key.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be big. At this point, I'm not really sure what a good day would look like because I think Arkansas is going to score. I think they're going to put up a lot of yards. Although I feel like we kind of undersell, maybe undersell is the wrong word, but like if Leonard Moore was totally healthy, and I realize he's not, but if he was and played the whole Purdue game and was 100% for A&M, Notre Dame's 2-1. The defense is just kind of bad opposed to where they are now.
Yeah.
So if Leonard Moore's totally healthy this weekend, then I don't know, then you're holding them to 28 and 400 yards.
Okay, question: If Arkansas scores 35, does Notre Dame win?
I say no.
Really?
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me if they did.
Giving up 35 on the road is asking an awful lot for your redshirt freshman quarterback making
no doubt
can ever start on the road. For me, it's twofold from your defense. Stop sucking in the middle 8, if I could be blunt. And then Arkansas has been spectacular on offense in the second quarter of its games this year. 3 different games already out of their first 4. Arkansas scored 21 points in the second quarter. So to me, you've got to win the middle 8, which you have not done this season, and you've got to win the second quarter.
Yeah, now the second quarter was, they scored 28 in the first quarter against Arkansas State. They scored 21 in the first quarter against A&M, 21 against Mississippi, but Mississippi scored 24 in the second quarter.
Yeah, 21 against Memphis in the second quarter.
I said 35. I mean,
the last 4, most of their last losses, Tim, Ohio State scored 34, Louisville scored 33, Clemson scored 31, Northern Illinois didn't. Well, Notre Dame's not getting there. They don't get there very often. Like USC scored 35 on the last play of the game. I
know, but I'm just thinking that this Arkansas defense might be one where you do get there.
Yeah, they definitely could. I think Notre Dame is usually a little better when they're not in the wild west shootouts.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Here's the other thing. If you're giving up 31, can you win? Sure. But are you kicking a last-second field goal with a guy who wasn't able to kick last week, who hasn't kicked on the road? I think that's a huge wild card for Notre Dame. you took Mitch Jeter when he was healthy last year. He was Money Mitch, and I don't think Burnett's been very fine, but coming off a leg injury that completely shelved him, and then an atrocious uh, attempt from the rookie Eric Schmidt, even though we know he's got the leg power, we said going in, watch the accuracy. So those are all factors to me.
Well, and then so you can't kick field goals; you have to score touchdowns.
Yep.
And I think Arkansas. I'm looking for this real quickly now. Arkansas is 89th in red zone touchdown percentage defense. So you can't, and that may be, a Marcus Freeman decision. I can't go for fourth down here. We've got to go for it because we need to score a touchdown, can't kick field goal.
Yeah, I think I definitely could come into play.
Related note from Rock of Pages, spelled with a AI, by the way. Not sure who that would be. The answer is usually most of the above, of course, but you've all used one of these reasons to predict a Notre Dame win before. So pick one Saturday. The offense continues its improvement and evolution. The defense found something in the second half versus Purdue and builds on it. Culture. Marty Biaggi and Marcus Freeman go full Sugar Bowl
On these fools.
on these
Get the whole
fools.
squid.
Yeah, well, it's part of my preview. I'm going with the last one. I think I had
It's
Arkansas.
a long way from culture, huh?
Well, yeah. Well, I just the culture is a little shaky right now on the road. But my first rate series during the summer, I had Arkansas last in special teams.
Oh, interesting.
They were horrible in 3 of the 4 return coverage categories. They gave up a 98-yarder to Arkansas State a couple weeks ago, kick return. So, I mean, I'm just thinking that, this is something that, like a differentiator. If we're talking about, mid-30s and you need a field goal, well, maybe you need a block field goal or, a fake whatever. That's the first thing that comes to mind because when I pointed out the 3 advantages, special teams is one of the 3 I'm choosing for Notre Dame on the road against Arkansas.
I go offense number 1, special teams on these fools number 2, and culture number 3.
Yeah.
None of us are expecting JB. You're not. JB, you're not expecting the
No, there's
defense
not.
to find something.
Omitted number 4.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's the offense continuing against what we believe to be a very porous defense. I just think very plainly Notre Dame has to win time of possession. I think it's critical because that's Notre Dame's best defense on Saturday is going to be winning time of possession.
Totally agree with that.
Culture, I would say I think the Notre Dame culture, while not as good as a year ago, is still quite a bit
better than Arkansas.
Well, I was going to say you could go Pete
Yeah.
Sampson mode here and say negative culture wins it for Notre Dame with Arkansas.
Yeah.
They have such a negative culture going
Culture
on now.
deficit.
Yeah, culture deficit is here. There was a question we didn't use because we've actually talked about it before. When Wounded Dog Notre Dame played Tennessee in 04 and won that game, and everybody thought, wow, maybe they are better, and then they just stunk anyway. Somebody mentioned, is Wounded Dog Arkansas coming here? They're going to have one good game left, and then they're still want to fire Sam Pittman 2 weeks later, and it's not going to do anything. You got to avoid that as a Notre Dame.
Yeah, JB, you know the SEC better than all of us, of course. Is there? Are they going to rally the troops and win one for Sam Pittman?
They don't hate Sam Pittman. I think that's important to note. I really do because I've been around some programs where they're just like the fan base actively cheered for them to lose because they wanted rid of the head coach so bad. That's not the case with Arkansas and Sam Pittman. I just don't think you can ignore the fact that I'm not joking. It's absolutely a Julius Caesar Brutus environment in that building. And I would reiterate, if you talk to people and you get them to tell you the truth, and this has been the case since the hire happened, Sam Pittman was told, okay, you've lost Jeff Lebby to Mississippi State. You're hiring Bobby Petrino. He's out of a job now because Texas A&M just got washed. You're bringing Petrino back to get this right. So you've had a certain level of dysfunction from the outset for that pairing, and now you've had enough of the crumbling foundation for Bobby Petrino to have really big eyes about being the top motorcycle rider again.
2 completely different sources than John Bryce. One in the summer, I asked him about Ty Washington, and I was like, how was he kicked off the team? And this Arkansas reporter, it wasn't 24/7, Arkansas reporter said to me, because they're a complete mess culture. He's a good kid that barely did anything wrong. That was an Arkansas reporter. And then a week ago, someone texted me, "This is an absolute train wreck. Bobby Petrino is openly campaigning for the head coach's job right now." I was like, okay, well, there you go. So maybe culture deficit disorder could come into play for.
Well, and the other thing to
Arkansas.
keep in mind, I think this is I don't think it's a great Arkansas offensive line, but it's a good Arkansas offensive line. And Sam Pittman's an offensive line coach, and so he is going to know what to do against Notre Dame's defensive front, which is, they've been good against. Overlooked has been how good Notre Dame's been against the run. They did a nice job against A&M, and then really hammered Purdue, but Purdue's offensive line's not that good. But head coach that's an offensive line coach is going to know what to do with an opposing defensive line that's struggling.
We're on to predictions, and these are not questions, but they had to be included for Pete Sampson and then the old school 2016 podcast. What is the over-under, Pete, on the number of times we see palms up, the WTF look from the defense this week, the universal sign of I don't understand what you're doing, and they wonder is it time to bring back the living, breathing quarterback corollary to Irish Illustrated predictions, or maybe we're one game ahead. I'm not sure, but
yeah,
Pete, how many of these?
Yeah, Taylor Green is definitely living and breathing. I go 4.5 on palms up.
Oh gosh,
I mean, seems reasonable, right? You're on the road. That's So, and I'm talking about plays. Like if it's not like PFF pressures. Like if 4 people do palms up on one play, that's only one palms up.
Gotcha. Not the made up pressure rate.
No, you can't have multiple palms up on a single play. So predictions though, like I have no idea. I'm building my entire prediction out of CJ Carr, which I think is a sound way to do it. So I go 42-35. I can't see Notre Dame making a field goal. I could see them missing an extra point though. But I just think like Arkansas got picked apart by Trinidad Chambliss, which just like is a funny name for me to say as Ole Miss's quarterback. Like I think CJ Carr is better than Trinidad Chambliss. So I think CJ Carr is going to throw it. I'll bet the over for his 244.5 yards of passing. And man, I could see the offense basically just doing a Purdue again, where they go 250 and 250. And unlike Purdue, they will actually need it this weekend.
You will put some respect on Trinidad Chambliss's name.
Such a great name.
He's a Michigan native who led Ferris State to a couple of natties. He'll probably have his jersey retired there at Butch Jones University.
So you're saying that Arkansas really struggles against quarterbacks with Michigan ties?
Correct.
There you go.
Exactly.
There you go. It's a lock for the Irish.
Thanks for stealing my useless knowledge here and my prediction, Pete. Thanks a lot, Bin Laden. Hangover reference. I'm taking Notre Dame, but I'm not sure what my confidence level is. Just
I thought you were going to say, but I'm not sure why.
Yeah, well, that could go there too. I agree. Like they can't make a field goal, but do they have to make one field goal? So I'm going to go like 38-31.
Yeah, I mean, I think they can make a field goal. I don't think they can make a field goal to win it because of that's
Right.
just a tough down 2 points from 42 yards. That's different than making a field goal. I can't see Notre Dame starting 1-3 with this team, like from what we thought the year could be, and that is nothing to do with how you win a football game. Because when you're 1-2, you can be 1-3. I know we omitted defense as a reason to win. Kind of feel like they can play winning football against the run and may have somewhat found something along the way in a couple of quarters of football this year. I actually think I'm stopping just short of Priester's prediction there. I'm going Notre Dame scores 38 points in a 38-33 win. I made that for the cover situation. Obviously 38-34 makes a lot more sense, but in 38-33, do you guys know the highest over-under? This is the highest over-under since when? And my only hint for you is one team is the reason the over-under was so high last time.
Alabama. I read your notes.
Good job. You read my notes.
I never read your notes.
They didn't play LSU in 2019.
I never read your
Teacher,
notes.
I never read your notes, but teacher, I get a cookie today.
I did.
Alabama playoff game was 69.5, and it was well under, by the way.
I'm going to a friend of mine who's a fellow former Notre Dame baseball player with me. He's a lot younger than me. Dan Peltier. He sent me a question this morning, what's your gut telling you for the game? And my response was that I have an upset stomach because I think there are so many things to consider in this game right now that I'm not really sure what direction I'm going to go, but I agree with Pete. I think Notre Dame's offense, I realize, Tim, how often it's been done. And
well, you just asked. I don't mean they can't. You asked me if they score 35. I don't want to spot anybody 35 points against Notre Dame.
I mean, I was thinking in terms of Notre Dame can score more than 35.
Right.
In this game.
Well, I have them scoring 38, so I guess so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so, I'm not going to predict right now, but there is for me, there's so much to consider. And it's usually this way when they're playing an opponent that they haven't played before. And I don't have any point of reference to work with in previous experiences, Notre Dame playing against them. But I loved the over when it was 64.5. And I guarantee you my pick is going to be over 64.5. And will probably be in the 70s or thereabout.
It's hard. It's just a hard one to pick the under until you see. First of all, if Leonard Moore doesn't play, that's definitely going over the game.
That would change my winner.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm concerned. I'm concerned Leonard Moore will not play. Like,
agreed.
Very concerned Leonard Moore will not play. And I just feel like Notre Dame has something they can. This is almost like Notre Dame can win this game, and then not everything will be right just because they pulled out a win against Arkansas, right?
All right. If Leonard Moore can't play, then play Dallas Golden at corner. I'm just throwing it out there. But I mean,
Devonta Smith might not play. Who get him a nickel?
Well, I was figuring that a guy that, turned his ankle in pregame 2 weeks ago would be ready, but that's not necessarily true either.
Yeah.
It's not a good situation.
But they can use Leonard Moore, but you know what? That one question, why will they win? We all just said offense, but Priest, your special teams is a great call too. Because
I think it comes into play. And look, we're looking at it completely from a Notre Dame perspective. Arkansas is not a great football team, man.
No, I mean they're
really bad on
culture and issues.
Yeah, they're really bad on defense, and their history says they're bad on special teams too. So why can't Notre Dame score 42?
Yeah. Well, they might have to. They will have to if Leonard Moore doesn't play. Look at it that way. Yeah. We'll find out, though, very early Saturday. By the way, I wonder if that helps at all. That was a question I threw out. I didn't want to use it. Is 11 a.m. better? I think it's better than playing at 8 o'clock in Arkansas's Hornets Nest. You guys agree?
Yeah. Win for us as well.
Yeah. On that note,
first things first.
For Pete, first thing, most important thing for the listeners, too. For Pete Sampson, the Athletic, John Bryce of Football Scoop, Tim Priester of Irish Illustrated, I'm Tim O'Malley. Thank you for watching Irish Illustrated Insider.